Hi, everyone, and welcome to ABA and MIA, where real talk meets real practice. I'm Karelix.
And I'm Mariam. We're here to break down ABA, autism, and the everyday life of the 305.
With clarity, compassion, and a little Miami spice. So grab your cafecito and let's get into it. All right, everyone. So today we have a very, very special guest. This is someone who means a whole lot to Mariam and I. Her name is Josefina Beyra, and she is an autism mom extraordinaire. I say extraordinaire with a capital everything. She's just somebody that is very admirable, somebody that I look up to, somebody that has always been dedicated to her children's wellness, inside and out, heart, body, and soul, always going above and beyond. We brought her on board because we wanted to bring the perspective of an autism parent and an ABA parent to our viewers. We're so lucky to have you. I know you're very, very busy. You're very busy. You're a mom of 3 beautiful children. So thank you so much for being here with us today. We have so many questions to ask you. You're so interesting and you're so involved in the community at this point. But maybe we can start out with just you sharing a little bit about your journey. Like, think back to the beginning. What did you feel? You know, when did you first notice there was maybe something wrong with your child? When you heard the words autism for the first time come out of someone's mouth, what did that make you feel? When they referred you to ABA, did you know what that was? Like, what was your overall impression as a first-time, autism mom? Can you walk us through that?
Okay, so that takes me back. At first, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I need that in writing. So, it's been a journey. My oldest is 14 and he has the official diagnosis of autism. So that journey goes back to that very beginning. I noticed a difference around 6 to 9 months of age.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that most people may not have that experience. But I had experience as a sister of an adult with autism and other disabilities, and my work as a teacher. I taught in our public school system for about 12, 13 years. So there were some things that I said, this is a little different.
Right.
I babysat all through college, so I've seen a lot of babies and young children. And so the first thing I noticed was finger twirling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I didn't even know how to Google that because that term was foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I, like every good mom, we went to Google.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just started typing finger movements, all sorts of things. And then, I began to get curious. At that age, there isn't anybody walking you through that path of, okay, let's explore autism.
Right.
Let's explore developmental delays. No one is explaining that to you.
That's very young.
Yeah, it's very young. And my first step was our pediatrician. Good man,
Mm-hmm.
but just the training wasn't there. Very dismissive, very old school, oh, he's a boy, he'll grow out of, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it took us a while. We made the decision to put him in daycare around 15 months or so to see, okay, let's see how this goes. We didn't need it.
Right.
It was a very difficult decision, but we wanted to see what others might see.
Perfect.
And that was a first sign. Excellent daycare. They do screenings. They're not assessments or evaluations, but screenings for their children and the families, which, I mean, if every daycare in America did that, we would be in a very different place. So that was helpful for me to have more confirmation, which then led to the next steps, which are early steps and so on and so forth, in our community of how you get evaluations and a diagnosis. So by the time we heard the diagnosis, my son was around 20 months to about 24 months. Yeah. We started the process after his 15-month screening at the daycare, which is one of the first things they did. And then we sought early steps after that. So by the time he was 24 months, we had the official diagnosis. And I'll never forget being in the parking lot after the diagnosis and just standing there. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what planet I was on. You know, I walked out and had to breathe.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fear. It wasn't anguish or anxiety, or it was just a moment. It really was. You can live around disability your whole life, but it hits you different when now, like, it's in your care, in your responsibility. And my husband was there and he said, "Are you okay? What's happening?" And he said, "It's gonna be okay." And I think he knew, okay, it's me we're talking about. You know, I'm going to find every resource, you know, known to mankind.
Yeah.
So he was very confident.
Or create it if you don't find it.
Right. He was very, very confident.
Right.
So that kind of helped. But I needed that split second of, Josefina, get it together. And I did. And we got back in the car and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
You know, we just started learning and finding things, and back to Google and back to the pediatrician, changed pediatricians, you know, making some difficult decisions. Sometimes you have to part ways with certain people and you know, not everyone's advice is going to be the best for you. And you have to make that ultimate decision. It doesn't mean that person isn't well-intending. It just means you have to be able to make those decisions that are best for your family.
It's interesting because I know, like, a lot of my parents who've first got the diagnosis, the mom is always on the survival mode. Like, what can I do to fix the problem? Where the dad, it's just more sometimes in different scenarios during denial. Like, oh, okay, you know, they have autism, but we can brush it off. Let's just do the therapy or whatever. So my question to you is, when you guys first started ABA, what was like the misconceptions that you guys, you know, thought about ABA? Were you guys doubtful of it? Did you guys have any expectations from ABA? What were your thoughts with that?
I had zero expectations. And I do like to walk into everything in life like that. My husband might say differently. But I genuinely do, because you don't know. You never know what you're going to get from anything. But in this case, I had never heard of ABA.
Yeah.
So I had nothing to walk in with other than, you know, ground zero. Like we had no idea. And the funny story, and, you know, my closest friends know this, and you might know this. So Benjamin was diagnosed. We went back to the neurologist 6 months after that, and I still had not found ABA. At the time, there was a lot going on with early steps and the availability of ABA therapy or RBTs. I mean, this is something that's just an issue in the community. You know,
Right.
Do we have enough professionals out there? Does the state have enough personnel to staff, you know, the need? So we were on a waiting list for a year. And that was my first response. Well, to the neurologist, I said, well, I'm on a waiting list, but I don't know what ABA is. And he looked at me and basically, you know, gave me the business and said, how dare you not have an ABA therapist? I told you this 6 months ago. And I was there like, I've never been reprimanded before. Like, what is happening?
Wow.
So, you know, I took that and I sat with it. I was like, I have to figure this out.
Mhm.
And I was at work. We're doing like I was a teacher then. We're doing a department meeting. And I was an art teacher. So my meeting was with art teachers, theater teachers, dance teachers, you know, my people. And I don't think I had broken down until this moment.
Wow.
I don't think anybody saw me going through anything. They just saw me at work and everything was fine. And at one point, I don't know what we were talking about. We should have been talking about the classroom and the supplies. But I was, guys, does anybody know what ABA is?
Oh my goodness. It just came out.
It just came out,
just
right?
came out.
And someone said, I do. But our dance teacher, I'm like, you know what ABA? We are now best friends. And so that was my introduction. And she is a close friend to Karelix, which this is how this, you know, beautiful relationship truly began. And I laid all my cards out. I said, I don't know what this is. I think I even brought a display of goodies. Like when she came over to our house to talk to us about ABA, I had a whole spread of God knows what, because I can't cook. Whatever I managed to find, I was going to make this person love our family. Because I had no idea what I was walking into. I didn't even know there wasn't a clinic necessarily. I didn't know it was at home. I had no idea. What I did know was that I was going to make it a mission to find every resource available, every support that was legitimate and evidence-based. And so that started my journey. I didn't come in with misconceptions. I came in with the willingness to learn. And that's what, you know, brought us here.
That's great. I think the picture for families today, especially in Miami, may be quite different, unfortunately. As many people out there know in the ABA world, ABA therapy, especially as portrayed in social media, and unfortunately in the media sometimes as well at this point, can be depicted in two very polarized ways. It can be absolutely life-changing. You know, you hear, I love my ABA therapist. You absolutely, that's the number one evidence-based treatment for autism. That's the first thing you want to do. And, you know, that's definitely the route. Or you hear ABA therapy is fraudulent. These people are glorified babysitters. I see no progress, or it's abusive, even worse. Oh my goodness. And so I think to people like Mariam and I, and you now, who have been on this journey with a high quality provider, who can see the life-changing differences that ABA therapy can make, the improvements in the overall quality of life that can be made. I would love for you to maybe share with our audience, like what would you say to them if, like, now, right? Like now that they go online and Google, Dr. Google, like you said, and they say ABA therapy, you know, like it gets, okay, I have a referral for ABA. So what is ABA? Should I do it? And you get all this mixed, review no matter where you go.
It's turned into a negative light. So
it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So what would you say to the audience about ABA?
I think the first thing I want to say, and I'll be clear, I'm not an expert. I'm not a neurologist or psychologist or a service provider, but I am a parent.
Yeah.
And I have lived ABA for 12 years. We can say those negative things, about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can say that about our pediatricians. We can say that about our psychologists. We can say that about our school system, our teachers. And I say that as a teacher. We can say these negative things. There's good teachers and there's teachers that really need to rethink their vocation in life, and I hope I said that as best as possible, with all the kindness in my heart.
Right.
And I've lived it because you know when someone loves their job,
Mm-hmm.
and you know when someone is trying to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
And we all, of course, need means to provide for ourselves, but we really need to care when we're in these types of positions. We really need to care about the people we're serving. So for me, it's not surprising that people found a way to even exploit ABA and the disability community. That's what people do. That's just something that, unfortunately, it's in our society, it's in our communities. Exploitation just happens. So,
Right.
and we see that there's corruption in almost every area.
Yes.
Very, very good, well-intending, things. This happens. So what I would say is, when you receive this diagnosis, one of the first things that you need to do, aside from centering yourself and getting support, is then you build a team. And for me, that was very important. Who's going to be this team? It meant that I needed providers, professionals that knew what they were doing, and that they didn't see me as a client. They saw our family as family.
Yeah.
That mattered to me.
Yeah.
So we did change our pediatrician. We went into, I think it was speech at the time. We realized they themselves said, we think there's a greater need that speech cannot fulfill, because autism brings different needs that are not just the classic standard needs that speech supports, speech
Right.
therapy supports. That made so much sense to me, that a professional said, we can give you this much, but it will not resolve some of the other things that you need to work on. That meant to me, that person, whether we're not their clients or not anymore, that person is in my team, right?
Yeah.
The resources in your local community, and I'll take the time to plug in Parent to Parent of Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look for these resources, and the agencies that are out there. God willing, not every community has the same supports, but Miami has very strong supports for autism, disability, neurodiversity. And we were very lucky to connect with them, and they provided, different orientations and ideas and directions. So you've got to build the team. And then came in Lotus with your amazing expertise, but really, really good people that understood how our family runs, what we care about, what were our values. And it was child driven, right? And it was family driven, really, because every program that we did was centered around who we were. And that meant the world to us. So are there, cases of corruption? Are there? Well, yes. That it's in everything. The cable company is corrupt, everything. So if we know these things to be true, why wouldn't they be true in areas such as ABA? So we have to be just mindful of that, and you just have to be involved. I mean, it only takes a couple of minutes into therapy for you to realize this is not right. Right? So if you're presently there, you know that. And so you speak to the provider, speak to the supervisor, and take it a step at a time. And you choose, okay, time to go to another thing. But you don't override an entire discipline altogether because there's a few, bad eggs in the system. How else would we really survive in the world? Because everything, down to the supermarkets, like everything, like, we could sit here and talk about this all day, but everything has its ups and downs.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. You talked about Miami having a lot of resources for autism. And I've been in this field for almost 30 years now, and I can definitely tell you that was not the case when I first started. And I want to commend you and congratulate you, because I think part of the reason that Miami is a high resource community for special needs individuals and families is because of you.
Oh.
And the work that you have done ever since your own son received that diagnosis. And so I wanted to pivot a little bit into your work with Spectrum Family. It's a nonprofit, but I mean, I would love for you to speak a little bit about that. Like, what was the motivation for Spectrum Family? Where did that come about? And what is it? What do you do for the community? Tell everybody about it. I would love for them to know.
Of course. And thank you for sharing that as well. Spectrum Family really comes from the journey and experience that our family had. When I say build a team, I really mean build a team, whether that's your own personal support system, the people you follow on Instagram, right, you know, the support group that you might go to. And my son was diagnosed around 2014. I had never used Instagram in my life. Got Instagram. I found a whole community. And you're right, it wasn't necessarily in Miami. There's different parts of the country and different people, you know, starting their Instagram accounts and things like that. And I noticed people were really sharing. And I felt very blessed that even though I did not know a lot about autism, because even having someone in the family with autism doesn't mean that you know what autism means, right? We're talking about a whole generation ago that didn't receive diagnoses, didn't receive therapies, didn't have what we have today. And we still have a long way to go. But in 2014, no, the scene was very different. Things weren't necessarily outwardly as they are today. Now, everywhere you go, there's an autism friendly sticker. Everybody has, their advocacy things, their resource fairs,
their sensory days,
right.
Inclusion days.
Exactly. Yeah. Our museums, our libraries, right. You name it. That wasn't around 10, 15, 20 years ago and beyond. So Spectrum Family truly formed around 2017, more or less around the time that I felt, okay, it's time to give back, because I saw a lot of progress and I learned a lot. I went back to college and I did my second master's in special education. And as a teacher myself, I saw, oh my goodness, I have so many students that need me in different ways. I need to learn more. So it wasn't just my own child, but how do I practice this in the classroom? So getting that master's really helped me to learn a lot. And the process of navigating the diagnosis really helped me as well. And I thought to myself, I need to share this. From the pediatrician to the neurologist to the agencies in the community, no one is connecting the dots for people. It's like a scavenger hunt, but without clues.
Oh my God, yes.
And I know back then I remember reading that it's like a poem, Welcome to Holland. It's very famous in the disability community amongst caretakers. And it's about, how you receive the diagnosis, and it's like arriving at the wrong destination. Like you thought, oh my gosh, I booked myself a trip to Italy, and you land in Holland. I've never been to Holland, no shade to Holland, I don't know. But the poem talks about like it's different, there's windmills, and that wasn't the plan. There's another parent out there that talks about mine wasn't to Holland, I got dropped in the jungle. And so I got dropped in the concrete jungle, I guess, out here with some palm trees. But and I really felt like, how do we get everybody in a space where we meet an ABA therapist? Nobody knows who you are.
Mhm.
Your average person may have heard of speech therapy because it's so applicable. But this is so niche.
Mhm.
And I really thought that people in the community, whether you have a direct connection to autism or not, you should see what this looks like in action. So that's what drove Spectrum Family, and we started having our signature event called Spectrum Fair, which brings people from the community, from the neighborhood. It's a family day. It's whether you have someone with autism in your family or another disability or no disability at all, you're welcome to come, because I go back to that story where a colleague knew what ABA was and I didn't. And I'm forever changed by that experience, because this person brought knowledge to me that I didn't have and that was so valuable. And if we can do that for our neighbors, why not? So we want every neighbor to understand autism. So often we hear about children drifting into waterways, you know, or our playgrounds, maybe they're not enclosed. They could run into, you know, other things. But if we're all mindful in the community, we can support.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, early days where I was at the grocery store and nobody knew how to help me with my child who I literally could not control. And that's got to be the most painful thing to experience when, you know, people are looking at you, judging you, not knowing what's going on. Are you kidnapping the child? You know,
Right. Oh my
and I say it
goodness.
jokingly, but people have been arrested
Mhm.
for less, not knowing that a child has a disability or autism. And if we don't educate the community, which is what the whole awareness campaigns were about, if we don't educate the community in that way, how do we move past this? And I know today we're it's awareness, it's acceptance, it's many different things, but all of it together matters, right? Because it does start with, you know, someone telling you the word autism exists, you know, the field of ABA exists. So that's what that work is about. It's meant to be interactive, not just a resource fair where you have business cards and now you know different people's names. No, it's meant to be a point of contact where someone can say, my child isn't talking. Now, it's not going to be a diagnosis day, an
Mhm.
evaluation, but just a point in the right direction. Because again, the diagnosis has no hints of where to go for the next step. We have a lot of things in place today, and people still don't know about them. You know, we need to start with our pediatricians. Our kids go to the doctor, they just do. Why don't our pediatrician offices have the whole map, the whole
Yeah.
map,
Yeah.
right? Laid out right there. They don't have to be the ones to know everything about autism, but they can, it's as simple as, hey, read this, you know, and all of your resources are there. So, you know, that's actually a goal of ours, to see how we can, you know, venture out to that next step. We are all pro bono. It's volunteer work that I do after work and after my kids are in bed. So you know, it's a labor of love, but I truly believe that it's helpful to shape our own community in that way.
Yeah, it's really beautiful work. I commend you. The Spectrum Fair is always so fun. You guys always have all kinds of really cool events. Your magical son performs sometimes, and it's just such a fun time for the whole family. I definitely recommend everybody check out Spectrum Fair. Um,
I actually wanted to ask.
Yes.
I know a lot of the audience want to hear this as well. So we kind of talked about the diagnosis and things like that, but I know, what about parents who've been having a kid with services of ABA and their kids all grown up now, they're more mature and they're aware of what autism is. Having that talk that you have autism, how was your experience like for your family having that conversation?
I think it was very natural. I know we've talked about it in therapies,
Mm-hmm.
in different sessions, but we've lived a life fully immersed in autism and advocacy. So the children have grown up knowing the word autism before they knew what it was.
Yeah.
We've been to the walks, been with different organizations, started the nonprofit. They are the ambassadors of Spectrum Fair. I'm not. It's not me. It's their face and the little flyers and, and they love it, and they love talking to people, and my brother has autism, and my son is his own ambassador. He does not need me in any way, and I say that knowing how blessed we are that we are at the point where we can explain to our children what autism is, and our child with autism understands it, because not everybody has the same experience. So first and foremost, it's really about where you are developmentally with the children, with the child, with the diagnoses, and and trying to navigate it in a way that makes sense for the individual. We have books. I love books. I must have like 500 books at home, if not more. I collect books.
What's the book that you would recommend?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know all
Yeah.
their names, but if you just look up children autism books or neurodiverse, there's one that the main character has my son's name. I just coincidentally, but there's a lot of children's books. I wish I could name one,
Yeah.
but there's so many now
Okay.
that really focus on representation. So I can definitely provide a whole list once I go back to my library. But we've always had like books.
Yeah.
And we read about it and we say, oh, do you know someone in the classroom that's, has autism, and look at this. And now there's TV shows with this type of representation. So starting out in a very developmentally appropriate way makes sense. At this point and over time, as our son began to grow and develop even cognitively, it then made sense to go deeper, right?
Okay.
To the point that we can quote the DSM-5, right? And who does that? Who does that? No one knows the diagnostic manual. But we have conversations about level 1 and level 2, and he's, he can participate in the conversation, right? And these are conversations you have to have, especially of a child that may have, an IEP at school, because they should know. Why are you at school today, Mom? Why are you meeting Miss So-and-so today? So you don't want to get caught off guard when then that specialist calls in the student into the meeting, because they sure will.
Right.
And that's not when you want to explain, what autism is. So it's something that the family has to be cognizant of and talk about, and be just prepared for. Very natural. Children understand, and you just have to know what makes sense for your child and your family, at that time. I also say it's important to talk about it because you want your child to have autonomy over his or her life. Of course, if it makes sense, because everybody's level of autism is different, and every disability is different. Right. But if they're able to vocalize and express themselves, then definitely this is important. Something happens when we receive these diagnoses. Everybody else gets a medical degree, and and they start telling you what autism is and isn't, and without me knowing, everybody in my family and all my friends had, opinions and thoughts and ideas of what I should do. And no, he doesn't have. This is autism light, and that's not in the manual. Guys. Autism light is not in the manual. But I say that because it's important that they know who they are.
Yeah.
I think it's great for them to know, especially when they develop those relationships, especially if you're dating in the real world, understanding like, okay, this person doesn't understand me or how I'm communicating, because communication is like a huge deal when you have relationships. So if he acknowledges it and he understands like he lacks this in a communication portion, that significant other will understand and be like, oh, okay. So then he'll kind of accept that and then kind of accept the feedback and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And friendships, because that's really the first type of relationship your child is going to build, right? Whether it's, within the family, cousins, we just so happen to not have, first cousins in our family. My siblings have, their health issues, and my husband is an only child. So, we've had to look outwardly in order to build those social relationships. And it's really important that our children know who they are so they can try, if they can, to express themselves. And then also know, okay, maybe I have to work on this and come back to the table with this, individual that I'm trying to befriend. We will never know how to perfectly navigate every social interaction. We won't always be there, right? Because eventually mom and dad become the third wheel, in a lot of this. And, I've always felt like I've always wanted to feel that, my son will be like everybody else when he starts to say, Mom, could you wait for me like across the street? Could you not like pick me up a little bit later? I've been waiting my whole life for him to, I'm like, that's what it looks like, because the beginnings didn't look like how everybody else. There wasn't this mama, there wasn't this outwardly speech. There wasn't this big, hug embrace that everybody else got when they had newborns. But now, with a lot of work and dedication and persistence, I see the fruits of everything that we've worked towards. And yes, it looks like a kid pushing you away. That's exactly what I want. So that's how it looks like today. One thing I do want to say is I've seen a lot of families that give up on the therapies that they, whichever one it may be. It doesn't always look like ABA, but after 2-3 years, one family even told me, oh, we got like a little graduation certificate. I'm like, what? Wow. How do you graduate from ABA? How do you graduate? This is a lifelong situation.
It's a journey.
It's a journey, and it's going to look different when the hormones hit. It's going to look different when they're an adult, early adulthood, mid-age adulthood, and eventually we'll navigate this as well, when we're older and we have to prepare, for our own departure. What does that look like? And so those are conversations that we're thinking about now, even though we'll have them at another time. But when you remove the support that you have without seeing its fruits, that is a big danger to our children and to our families. We've been in ABA now about 12 years, and it has been different at every stage. Yeah. But now we're in a different stage of life with things to work on that we never worked on before. So when is that right time to leave? I think eventually it'll just morph into something else. And I wonder sometimes, have we explored that? What does ABA look like when you're 25? Is it consultation? Is it a phone call? Is it a virtual, monthly? I don't know. Is it life coaching? Have we explored that? What does the research say? We don't know. A lot of families stop at age, 8, 9. Oh, my child is not talking anymore. My child did not, talk. So we're done with this. So you have to.
That's really unfortunate.
Yeah, you have to try to stick to, because it's the end goal is not the thing that necessarily you want, and that's something that everybody has to work on. We all think, well, he didn't get to talk, so therefore ABA didn't work, or insert whatever therapy, there. The end goal is to keep supports going, because the individual deserves that opportunity to grow in whatever way that may be. And we will never know if we stop.
I think that's a really interesting point you bring up, because sometimes, like you said, a parent can have like a preconceived notion of what success with a specific therapy will look like. And when they don't see exactly that, then they make that erroneous conclusion like, hey, this is not what I'm spending my $5,000 a year deductible on, right? Like, this is not what I envisioned. And sometimes parents will come to me and say, I think we're nearing the end. We're about wrapping up here. And when you do a norm reference assessment on the child, you'll see that they're still quite behind. They still might be 2 years behind their same aged peers or 3 years behind their same aged peers. You still see a lot of splintered skills where, hey, speech, language, and communication is up here, but he still doesn't, brush his teeth independently or bathe independently or do his household chores, or, right? So like maybe we need to concentrate a little bit more on like caregiver training goals and independent living skills. Or maybe the social skills are still not to par. Maybe they're getting bullied at school. Maybe they don't have any friends, even though they want to have friends. They lack that ability to initiate social contact with others and to make genuine connections.
Absolutely.
And so, like you said, once puberty kicks in, the goals are going to change a lot. You're going to probably have a lot of behavioral regression, aggression, right? Aggression, property destruction, self-injurious behavior can kind of kick back in unexpectedly. And so we do have some families who will like graduate out for a little bit, and then 2 years later they're like,
back.
oh, he's going through
Yeah,
a
of
moment. Can
course.
we get going again? And I'm like, sure, absolutely. If you feel like you need us, we will be there for you. Let's do another assessment, right? And we get that going again. But now your sweet, sweet Ben is 14.
14. Yep.
14.
It's unbelievable. He has by far surpassed a lot of the expectations that we've all had for him, right? By far. So proud.
Going from one word to multiple words,
Too many
questions,
words.
uncomfortable questions. But he's such an amazing kid. Like, I really wish I had his confidence, because the way he talks, people get nervous in stage and trying to perform everything, trying to get it right. He can just perform without any practice, and he's just confident.
Yeah.
And I wish everyone had his confidence. He's amazing. So he's come a long way. And I know you just said that he's doing piano as his type of
he
hobby.
He's definitely come a long way and surpassed, and mind you, I don't think I ever set a bar for him, but I didn't know that I would be here. This is a child that his first IEP said self-contained. And I don't think, we talk about that enough, that what does that do to the mind of the family, the child? And I don't know what got into me, but I said, no, I'm not taking it. Nope, he will not be self-contained. So, withdrew him. He was just turning 3. I said, we're going to have to find different avenues, because this doesn't work for me. And I know what it's like for a child to grow up self-contained in the classroom setting. It means it basically means that you don't have the cognitive level to go to the mainstream, to the general education. So how are you able to access that? How do we know what your potential is, right? And that brings a whole other conversation to be had about our education system in our community and in our country. While I'm very thankful for what we do have, there's so much to work on there. But that said, you have to know that you cannot cap the ability, right? even if the child doesn't seem to be able to do certain tasks, you have to present the challenge almost and see how much they can reach and grab onto. And today he plays trumpet, drums, the piano. He's an aspiring organist. I mean, music is his outlet, and it just makes sense. It makes sense. It's the way he fully expresses himself. So this will be a career path, and we're lucky to be here. Not everybody gets here. I don't want people to think that ABA is a magic trick, right? But I do fully believe that when you have the right team and you have the right support and programs, and you're constantly looking what's next, what can we do, and you keep going, longevity is the key. Because you can't try something out for 2 or 3 years. It takes sometimes 2 or 3 years to get started, for the child to really see, okay, I have to do this. We're in it for the long haul. We have to give it time. And autism is just one of those things that everything takes so much time. But today, at age 14, we're thriving. And even with the things that we know, okay, we really got to work on this. We're thriving. Why? We have our supports in place. It's important to see it with perspective, right? What are we looking for? Are we looking for perfection? Are we looking for the child to no longer have autism? Impossible. Are we looking for a happy individual? Are we looking for an individual that is thriving, has access to what he needs, or at least can advocate and say, I need help in some way, whether that's spoken language, sign language, technology devices? We need to make sure that we're always striving for that, for the child to, and adult later on in life, to have a way to reach us.
I love the way you said that you shouldn't treat autism as a disability. A lot of our parents are like, how do I approach this? How do I communicate with my kid? How do I go from here? And the way you said it was so beautiful. You said, don't treat it as a disability. There's no limits. Don't put any limits to your child, and just keep striving.
Right.
And always just try to treat your child just like as a typical child. Just keep going for it. There shouldn't be any okay, since he has a disability, I'm gonna not push it too much. I think you should always push it no matter what, and always believe that your child will strive for the most. So that was beautifully said.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Whatever you do for your child with autism, it's the same as what you would do for, your other children who might have, other things. It could be health related. It could be, we all have something, right? Autism is particular. And yes, in many ways, it is a disability, and it can present itself in ways that needs more care, more specialized care. But even then, always have the hope and always push for more. Push those boundaries. Don't cap it.
Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit about what you've done now, right? Because as a mom, we're always thinking ahead. And now that he's 14, and you talked about a potential career in music and all of these things, maybe 2 years before, you weren't quite sure that was the path he was going to take, right? We always knew he loved music, but I think as a mom, you always worry. You mentioned, one day I'm not going to be here. We have to prepare for our separation from this earth, from this life. And so talk to us, explain to us, what are you doing now? Because you, beyond just ABA, after Spectrum Family, what is it that you're working on now in the community that you can share with everyone that will lead into adulthood, because everybody talks about lack of services for the adult population. Everything just seems to magically just drop off
Right.
and disappear, both from insurance carrier funding and state, funding resources, state funded resources. So what is it that you're working on now, and how do you hope to impact the community?
Absolutely. So Spectrum Family is still my ongoing, passion project. But I recently met a powerhouse of a woman. Her name is Maria Jacobo, and perhaps that's someone that, you might interview next, because really the work that she's doing is extraordinary. But first and foremost, before anything else, she's a mother. And she just, in the same way that I was inspired to give of everything that I've learned, she's worked very hard to do that. So I have been alongside her trying to support a new initiative called the Florida Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce. It is the third chamber of commerce in its kind in the United States, the first being in Colorado and the second being in Georgia. There are other states now working towards that goal as well. In Florida, I know we've already expanded from South Florida, Miami, the Broward area, to now Orlando, and it is continuing to grow. I am currently writing my dissertation, so I've taken a little bit of a step back from it, but it's still something that we're really hoping impacts greatly, as we know, sometimes neurodiverse individuals don't necessarily have the supports they need as they enter the professional world. And it's very, very different than the child that is going through an IEP process at school. Parents are involved. But when you enter the workforce, it's you, right? Mm-hmm. You are the adult. You are in the literal driving seat, and those are things we think about now. Does our child want to drive? Can he drive?
Right.
But there's so many things out there. There's special services for these types of things, but who's navigating, how to support neurodiverse people in the workforce? So that's what that work is about. Colleges, I think, are doing a really good job in providing on-campus supports. There's disability centers, there's student unions, there's different access programs. But the connection between college and career, and then staying in that career path, is not great. So many individuals that are neurodiverse have degrees that are going unused. And a lot of people don't know that. The work environment brings on a whole new set of challenges that, how would you have, worked on them in childhood, right? We try to think of it like, okay, well, in school, you've had a group project before and things like that, but the workforce is different. Yeah. It's different, and it really requires you to have a lot of confidence. As my son does have a lot of confidence. Not everybody does, but also know how to speak to HR and when to do so. Know how to request professional development, right? There are a lot of programs that support individuals through community work life, perhaps working at the grocery store, the library, more community oriented work life. But who's preparing a neurodiverse individual that perhaps is an engineer? We have expectations that we set for people without realizing there's a lot more going on in the brain. Right? And we don't all just come to work ready, with everything that we need. Right. So it is our hope that this initiative, this new project will really support adults, and this is coming at the right time, at least for me, because I know eventually my son and many other individuals will be at that point, and we want to make sure that the workforce in Florida is ready for them.
Is there like a website or information parents can go and kind of get more information about it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's flndcc.org. We also have an Instagram and a LinkedIn. But this is not just for parents. We're looking for everyone in the community because we want to educate individuals, our neurodiverse professionals. We want to educate and support our corporations and our businesses and community leaders. So this is really a statewide initiative that's really meant to support growth overall.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Because like we said, there's no resources out there for adults, and we're just leaving them hanging, especially like you mentioned, engineers. They don't have that step to get them there. So this was a great conversation. We've got a lot of good feedback from you, and thank you so much for what you do to Miami and helping the parents and children with autism and as they grow, and you have more, the next chapter in your life with what we're looking forward to, like with careers and stuff like that for our kids. Well, you guys can check us out on social media at our YouTube channel. And I think that's a wrap.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We look forward to the next time. Heart in hand and coffee in hand. Wait, heart in the right place?
Coffee in hand.
Awesome. However that goes.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.